My fiancée cheated on me, got pregnant, and blamed it on my childhood ex. Now everyone sides with her and wants me to forgive her. So I've been reading posts for a few days now, looking for solutions to my own situation. I don't know if this is the right sub or not. I'm new to Reddit and I'm trying to find advice from people who are or have been in the same situation as me. First of all, I would like to apologize in advance for my vocabulary and my expressions. I am French, and English is therefore not my native language. It has now been about 2 weeks since I discovered that my fiancée, Marie, cheated on me with her ex. According to her, she felt insecure because of my ex, Samia. It's the dumbest excuse I've heard in my life. But the worst thing is that everyone agrees with her and pressures me to forgive her. I want to hear the opinion of people who are not concerned. I will try to give a little background. It may be long. Samia, and it's a long story. We met when we were both 3 years old. Her mother was a nanny at home and looked after several children, including me. We were so inseparable that our mothers became friends and decided to put us in the same school. So I practically spent my entire childhood until I was 13 with Samia. We were called the Siamese twins back then. We used to argue a lot, but we were always united against the other children, which meant that we were ostracized. But we didn't care as long as we had each other. When we were 11, our families started to think it wasn't healthy and that we needed to make other friends. It was while trying to separate us that we realized that we were deeply in love with each other, but our families were very conservative. She is of Arab origin, and I am of African origin, so we hid the fact that we were dating. Then one night, when I was 13, I made the mistake of going up to her room, which was on the first floor, through her window. It was dangerous, but exciting. I had done that a few times before. We were just chatting at the time and kissing sometimes, nothing else. But that day her father opened her door. Without warning, he caught us kissing and tried to call the police. I tried to escape through the window. I fell and broke my arm. All the neighbors were out, and it became a scandal. The whole neighborhood talked about it. Her father never liked me. He wanted to file a complaint against me, even if I was not risking much at that age. It was still very humiliating for my family. My father, therefore, decided to send me to Africa to stay there for an indefinite period, but it was mainly to separate us. I tried to adapt to my new life. She also tried to adapt to her new life. But in the end, we managed to keep in contact. We spoke via the internet, and when I came back to France after high school, it was as if we had never left each other. We continued to date in secret, and at 20, it was clear to us that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. We were naive to think it was going to be that simple. We decided to tell our families, saying that we intended to get married. But for them, it was as if we had announced the apocalypse. Our respective families wanted everyone to get married within their culture. It caused a lot of tension in the neighborhood. Even when we were little, we had made a lot of noise, and everyone always talked about us and gave their opinion on our lives. It was very painful. We tried to hold on for a year. She wanted us to go and finish our studies in another city very far from Paris and our families. But my father was sick at that time, so I decided to stay. And when my father died, I no longer had the strength to fight. I decided to break up, and she decided to go to another city. We had completely lost contact. I was tired of living in the neighborhood, where people always talked about us. I chose to move to the student residence of my university. It was a terrible year. I came back to see my family on the weekends. One day, at a wedding, I met Marie. She had just moved to the neighborhood with her family. We were at the same table. We spent the evening making jokes and telling each other about our lives. I told her about Samia, and she told me about her ex. She told me that she had left her ex after 2 years of relationship because she did not want to sleep before marriage. But her ex could not hold on anymore. She told him to marry her, but he was not ready. So she decided to end their relationship. We were two souls in pain. We had become friends over time. She acted that way because I lived on campus, so I didn't know what was said in the neighborhood where I came from. But apparently, people were talking about my old stories with Samama, telling anecdotes here and there, like the time I broke my arm trying to escape through the window. I reassured Marie by saying that was the past, but she always compared herself to Samama. It's true that Samia was very beautiful, but that was beyond my control. She blamed me for having dated such a beautiful woman. Yet she never saw her, maybe in a photo. I don't know. I always told her that she was the most beautiful in my eyes because she was the one who counted now. But she always had to compare herself to Samia. If we did activities together, she asked me if I had already done it with Samia. What she couldn't stand was that I was intimate with Samama. In short, it was becoming unbearable. Despite everything, I asked her to marry me. She was from the same culture as me, so it suited my family. I did not have the strength to fight again for this kind of thing. The wedding was to take place in August, a perfect timing for me because I would have finished my studies in July. Other than her insecurity, Everything seemed fine until 2 weeks ago when I got a call from a number I didn't know, from a guy who introduced himself as her ex. He told me that he and Marie were still seeing each other and that they had slept together several times. I didn't believe him. I thought his ex was trying to sabotage our relationship. But he sent me the screenshots of their discussion. I told him that these things could be easily fabricated. He then asked me to meet. I wanted to warn Marie, but I told myself that I would go first. I had 2 of my friends accompany me in case he tried to trick me. Then he showed me his phone, Marie's number, their discussions, etc. Everything was there. They saw each other for 2 months, and Marie decided to put an end to their affair a week before he contacted me. I called Marie directly. I told her that we needed to talk. At that time, oddly, I felt no anger, no positive or negative feelings. I was like a spectator watching my life in a film. A friend of mine had the good idea to ask me to record our confrontation. That's what I did when I told her what I knew. She was shocked. She told me that it wasn't true, and that the guy was trying to destroy our relationship. So I showed her the screenshots. She said the same thing I said to the guy, that it was something that could be easily fabricated. I told her I went to see the guy, and he showed me his phone, their discussion, and details about our life that he couldn't know. She broke down and started crying, asking me for forgiveness. I was at her house, in her room. Her family came to see what was happening. I explained the situation to them. They didn't believe me, and I didn't try to convince them. I left. They contacted my family before I arrived at my family house. I explained to my mother what had happened. Apparently, Marie explained to them that it was because I was seeing Samia in secret that she did it. Apparently, Samia was back in town when I didn't even know it. Now everyone says it's because of her. Marie put herself as the victim and Samia and me as the villains. I was so angry that I decided to cut off contact with everyone. It's been 10 days since I've spoken to anyone in the neighborhood. I stayed with a friend from school, so no one knows where I am. I turned my phone off and only contact my mother via email. I also received tons of emails from Marie, but I deleted each of them without reading them. That's pretty much the story. I don't even know what I'm going to do next. Everyone asks me to forgive her, but there is no possibility for me to do so. I only feel disgust for her, but I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to handle the situation. It is complicated. Any advice? Update 1. Hello folks. Well, it's been a while since my first post. I've been receiving a lot of support in my DMs, and I can't thank you all enough. People ask me for updates, so here we go. I put a link above to my first post for those who want some context. D-Day was very close to my finals, so I felt numb and like I was on autopilot all through my exams. Nothing else mattered in that period, and honestly, focusing on myself was all I needed. And now, I'm officially an engineer. I remained no contact with Marie, my ex-fiancée, her family, my family, or anyone who minded my business. But in the evening after my exams, when I finally got back to my apartment, everything I did that twice that evening. I had trouble falling asleep in my bed. I scratched again because it reminded me of all those times. Marie and I were sleeping in the bed, so I laid down on the floor the next day. Every time the images were too much to handle, I'd start scratching again and went showering to feel clean. I did that 8 times right now. I'm doing it like 3 to 4 times a day. I'm afraid I will damage my skin. Has this ever happened to any of you? Hope it's not a compulsive mental illness. So the next day, I turned on my phone. The messages kept coming. There were like over 200 text messages and many voicemails. I didn't read any of them. I deleted everything. I didn't have the strength to go through the same where people told me the same things again and again. I decided to go to my family's house. I couldn't keep hiding any longer. I already knew I was going to find people there like every Saturday. I have never been so stressed in my life. When I got home, I found my uncle, my father's brother, and self-proclaimed head of the family. After my father passed away, his wife, whom I will call Witch because, well, she is a witch, their children, a few family friends, as well as my siblings, 13M, 9M, and 5F. For some reason, my mother wasn't there. As soon as I got there, my uncle started yelling at me, and I didn't even acknowledge him. Just seeing my little sister running to me for a hug was a blessing. God, I love this little girl. All my siblings see me as a role model. I felt guilty for not talking to them all this time. Usually when I'm there on the weekends, I help with their homework. I put the youngest to bed and tell them some stories that my father used to tell me. When I am in my own apartment, we manage to talk every night to see how their day was. We're very close to each other, but my uncle won't stop yelling at me, so I got pissed off. I was sitting in front of everyone like I was getting an audition from a jury, which asks me if I found back my sanity. Apparently, Marie changed her version. She said she didn't sleep with her AP. They just kissed, she said. I put so much pressure on her that she confessed to something that she didn't do, but I know what I saw on AP's phone. This girl called Marie. I really don't know who she is anymore. She turned out to be such a manipulative person. How can someone hide such a vicious nature for so long? Or am I such a fool who wasn't able to notice anything before we started dating? She told me lying was a deal breaker, that what she hated most in the world was narcissistic perverts, while she embodies everything she hates. It's beyond my little mind. Well, at that point, I didn't care anymore. I've told everyone what I've been through, and that they have the choice to believe either me, they've known my whole life, or someone they've known a little longer than a year, who told me that it was impossible because Maria is a sweet and loving girl who helps the community, and who even volunteers. Well, I told her that was irrelevant, because even Hitler volunteered at some point in his life. My uncle said if it's true that Marie slept with AP, then I had the right to not continue the relationship, as if I need some permission to pursue any of my relationships. But when Witch said that it doesn't matter if it was true, because it would be just a mistake made by a young E, my uncle immediately agreed with her. He's the biggest fool I ever knew. He may have an opinion, but as soon as his wife says otherwise, he changes his mind. I wouldn't even be surprised if his wife cheated on him and he knew it. He's a real doormat, but maybe he is literally afraid of his wife. He is very small compared to her. If you see them walking hand in hand at night, you would think of a lady walking with her child. Then Witch tells me to confess it was because of Samia, 23F. I stayed calm. I replied that I hadn't heard from Samia for 2 years. My uncle told me if it wasn't because of Samia, I could easily forgive Marie. I couldn't take it anymore. I told him, okay, I will forgive Marie if you let me sleep with Witch for 2 months. Then it became chaos. My uncle wanted to hit me, but the family friends held him back. I told them they were hypocrites. They asked me to forgive what they couldn't even imagine on their side. And now I didn't allow anyone to interfere in my life. Witch was crying, and my uncle said he would never forgive me and that I was dead to them. In that moment I didn't care. He gave me little candies each time and gave me presents. I loved him very much. He was a great man in the eyes of everyone. And this kind, helpful man committed suicide one day because his wife had an affair. This is what cheating can do. I heard a year after that, his wife ended up moving to Canada with the kids and her AP. Maybe my hatred of cheating comes from that event, so I won't burn myself out to give warmth to others by getting back with Marie. Even though, honestly, I don't get why people are trying so hard to get me back with Marie, and how the heck it would benefit them. Anyway, my mother came back. I guess they told her what happened. She came into my room, and the first things she did were hug me and ask me about my feelings and my finals. She is such a lovely human being, despite the fact that she mostly communicates her love through her actions rather than by words. I remember a few years ago, I used to work in fast food while studying. I often came back home around 2 a.m., and she was there waiting for me. We had small talks while I ate the dinner she reheated for me. We were having a hard time not waking up, everybody with our laugh. So, we talked about what happened with my uncle and his wife, and I gave her the full version of why I had to break up with Marie. In my last post, I didn't mention the fact that I only told my mother that Marie cheated on me, but not to what extent. So, she believed, like everyone else, that it was just a kiss. She was sorry for what I was going through, but what surprised me the most were the facts that she was crying. Well, it was the first time in my life I saw my mom cry. Even when my father passed away, she was still smiling and trying to be the support system we needed, and would cry only at night in her room when she thought everyone was sleeping. I had a breakdown seeing her cry, and I couldn't stop myself from crying at the moment. She hugged me, and I started having a bunch of feelings like sadness, anger, and hatred. I felt the hurt deeply. She told me she would accept any decision I made. My mom came back downstairs, and everyone left. I didn't ask what she told them. I didn't care that much. I put off my phone again for the next week because I was too tired. I spent most of that time sleeping and catching up with my friends, gaming with them, and trying to deal with the pain I was feeling. My mother did receive a call from Marie's parents several times, and she only told me once she felt I was in a good place to talk about it. Apparently, Marie was having a bad time. She spent some time in the hospital and was going insane because I went to see Marie's parents and begged my mom to meet me just one time. So even though she told me I didn't have to, I agreed to meet them with Marie. Next Saturday, Marie led the narrative all that time, so it is my turn to do so. I don't know how it's going to be and if I should have them come to my house or go to their home, but I will be ready. In my last post, someone gave me the idea of calling her AP, pretending I might give her a second chance if I don't have enough proof. Well, that's what I did yesterday, and I will see him tomorrow, Sunday, he said. There is far more to the story. I know he said he won't send me proof because I might show it to Marie, and he then won't have a shot to win her back. But he will show and tell me everything. We will see. Oh yes, people keep asking how things are going between me and Samia. I said in my last post I would contact her to apologize for having her name associated with this mess, even if it's not my fault. Well, before I could do it, she contacted me by email. It's not what you think. Lol. She was super mad and didn't understand why people kept telling her she messed up my couple. But at least she was kind enough to ask me if I was okay with all this mess. I saw the message 2 days ago. I didn't respond yet. I don't even know what to write. I am like a brainless, odd guy right now, but I will do it between the meeting of Marie, her AP, and her family. I will update you guys. Thank you. All update to, hey guys, a quick update I guess. So I met yesterday Marie's AP. I am too tired to give all the details because the situation is becoming really heavy. I met him in the same place as the first time. I of course recorded everything. Long story short, they dated 4 years on and off, and Marie never was the virgin she claimed to hold. He says it's that time when Marie began to develop the idea of being a born-again virgin, whatever that means. According to him, she felt like her miscarriage was a punishment due to the way she used to live her life. She broke up with him, and they decided to stay friends. So far, he hasn't shown me any proof. He says he changed his phone in the meantime, but he showed me discussions they had during the whole period that I knew Marie in the texts. Marie said she met someone, me, who had the kind of old romantic relationship. She always wanted to experience love with someone over time. She said I was a good guy and that she could build something with me. Through our relationship, AP became someone she confided in when she was insecure, so he knows practically everything about our relationship. He told me details that only Marie and I know, he says. Marie didn't like me at first. She liked the idea that I was able to have an amazing relationship in the past, and she wanted the same. He thinks that Marie still doesn't love me. She just loves the idea of having me completely. And she never felt that she had me completely. So it became an obsession. Well, I don't know if the first part of his story is true or not, but I know that everything he's told me since I've known Marie is corroborated by evidence. I'm getting angrier and angrier, and it's a feeling I'm not comfortable with. I don't want to meet Marie's family, but I don't know if it's true that they knew from the start what their daughter was. What is certain is that now I no longer want to meet Marie. I have this huge need to take all the evidence and send it to all the people I know, because it is unfair that I, who was born and lived in my neighborhood, must bear the consequences of her actions. But at the same time, I don't want to do things like that. I do have a lot of respect for Marie's parents. I should just send them my evidence and ask them for explanations before deciding whether or not I will meet them. Thank you for all your support on my 2 previous posts and in my DMs. I'm losing my mind right now. While many of you have lived for years with your spouse who cheated on you, and some even have children with them, this might be my last update if nothing new happens. So thank you all, and I wish a lot of courage to those who are going through difficult times because of infidelity. Update 3. Hi guys, I didn't think I would do an update anymore, but I get a lot of messages asking me what happened since my last update. I would first like to thank those who left comments. In my last post, I wasn't in a good place back then, but I read all of them, and I appreciated all of your advice and comfort. So to the question, did I meet Marie and her family? Yes, I met them. I met them at my house with my mom. Before the meeting, I had sent a long audio message to Marie's parents, telling them everything I learned from her AP, and saying I was tired of her playing the victim and painting me as the villain. There was nothing left to be saved in the relationship. But if the rumors kept going, I was willing to expose Marie and our social circle, because it was unfair to suffer from something that I did not do. I told them I had to cancel the meeting unless she came clean immediately. Marie's mother called me and said Marie had finally told them everything. She had removed her posts and came clean on all of her social networks. I don't use Snapchat or Instagram, so I couldn't say if it was true. I had to call one of our mutual friends to check. And yes, she came clean. I felt trapped in my own game, because given how important it is to save appearances in a traditional family like Marie's, I thought she would never do that. So I maintained the meeting. I thought it would be difficult to meet Marie since every time I thought back to our moments, I saw myself scratching a lot. I thought seeing her would be too much, but in the end, it wasn't. When we met, I almost didn't recognize her. She lost weight in such a short time. She looked very sad and lost. She couldn't put her eyes on me. She didn't even talk to me. We were in our living room and had small talk at the beginning until her mother started to beg me to take her back. She was very insecure. That's why she did what she did. I had already prepared myself for what I wanted to say and the questions I had, so I did not deviate from that. I first asked Marie why she lied about her past and pretended to be someone she wasn't. She started crying and wouldn't look at me. Her mother said she was always judged on her past and asked me if I knew the truth. Was I still going? I'll never know what's true in anything she ever said to me. In short, her parents kept defending her, but Marie still wouldn't speak. The discussion went around in circles. At some point, seeing how determined I was, they asked me, for the sake of the love I ever had for their daughter, to postpone the wedding and take the summer to think about everything. I didn't expect that request. It confused me. I did not know what to say. My mother, who had been silent from the start, saw that I was struggling to answer. She said she had already spoken with me, and I had already made up my mind. If in the future I come to change my mind, she will advise me not to do so, but will still support my choice. She said the meeting was to give them closure, and not to consider a reconciliation. She told them I was traumatized, I lacked sleep, and that I had been acting weird since then about me scratching myself low. Nobody spoke for a while. Marie asked to speak to me in private. She insisted it was not to convince me that she would accept my decision. If I gave her a one-on-one, I told her I didn't think it was a good idea to be in a room alone, but we could go outside to walk, and that's what we did. We walked for about half an hour. It was the first time I felt her so vulnerable, and where she finally took accountability for her actions. She told me it was true that she had a promiscuous past. She never had any trauma that explains this. She grew up in a loving family. It was probably just her nature. But she started having sex at 12. At 15, she used to have different partners at the same time. At 18, she had already slept with 40 people, and she had stopped counting. After that, she told me she had never known love before me. She just looked for a way to be loved and to seek validation. She was loved by AP. She never knew a man could love her the way AP did. She thought that was what she was looking for. Ultimately, she couldn't love AP the way he loved her. She couldn't stop sleeping with other guys because the only time she thought she could love was when she got intimate with someone. But after that, the feeling disappeared, and only a feeling of emptiness remained. She eventually got pregnant, started loving her unborn child, but had a miscarriage. That's when she started questioning her whole life. Her family moved away so she could start over. She broke up with AP because she didn't love him, but he was a good person and loved their friendship. So they never stopped communicating, even before meeting me. She had heard of me and Samia. The first time was in a fast food place where Samia and I used to eat. We were friends with the owner's son, and he knew us too and used to offer us kebabs. He always used to take pictures of his loyal customers and other things and put them on the walls of his restaurant. Among the photos, there were two with me and Samia. One where we were 11 and another where we were 19. Everyone in the neighborhood knew the story behind the 19-year-old picture. It was my birthday. I was born in September. So Sam had worked all summer to be able to give me a dream birthday. She bought me a tuxedo and she put on a nice evening dress. She rented a limo waiting for me in front of my house. She promised me a dream evening. We got into the limo, but 200 meters later, the limo stopped. She said we had arrived at our destination, but we got off in front of the modest fast food. I was too embarrassed to have put on a suit, have a ride in a limo, and end up in that fast food. She had that kind of humor, but that was cool. We ordered the same kebabs that the owner used to offer us, and she bought a muffin, put a candle on it, lit it, and asked me to blow it out. The owner had taken a picture at that moment and liked to tell the prank that Samia had done to me. Even if she did, she gave me the greatest birthday after. But that is another story. So, when Marie found out about the story, she asked for more details, told her other stuff here and there, and that's when she said she wanted to experience this kind of love. When she met me and knew that I was the guy in the picture, she wanted to know me. She was intimidated by the story she heard of me. Before she knew it, she had started lying to hide her past. When she realized that she was already attached to me, she couldn't take those lies back. Because if she told me the truth, I would never want to see her again. She felt guilty throughout our relationship. She discovered that she was hit her hard when I found out the truth. And that's where she lost herself. She didn't know she was able to turn into a monster in order to try to keep me in her life. She made up excuses. She tried to guilt me into staying with her. When she realized it wasn't going to work, she passed out and spent time in a hospital. She didn't want to live anymore, not because she lost me, but because she realized what she had become. And it was unbearable. She says she didn't want to force me to be with her anymore. And even if I forgive her, she would never forgive herself. She says she started going to therapy to find out why she did what she did and who she really was. She says it might be a long process, but if I could find compassion in my heart to forgive her and help her be a better person, she would be grateful to me all her life. I wasn't going to. But at that moment, I was so weak when I heard her requests that I almost agreed to keep in touch in order to help her. I had so much empathy for this woman who hurt me. It was crazy. But I knew from the moment I saw her that the feelings I had for her no longer existed. I explained to her that I needed to distance myself to heal and that she didn't need me to heal, that she thinks she needs me. But to heal, she has to face things herself, and that's the only way she can grow out of it. She says she already knew what I was going to say, but if she didn't try, she would have regrets all her life. She tells me she accepts my decision, but she is not giving up on me, and she will seek to become the best version of herself. and she believes in the future we will reunite. I wanted to tell her that I could never be with someone who cheated on me or who has cheated before. But I kept quiet. I just said that I had moved on and that it wasn't good for her. If I gave her hope, she said nothing. We ended up talking about something else. Her parents contacted her and told her they were already home. So I walked her to her house before going. I told her I would be NC. It was the only healthy way to heal. She agreed. But it will be so hard because we will be in the same neighborhood and we might run into each other from time to time. She asked me for a last hug. I hugged her and I left. And frankly, I felt lighter after this talk. I had no more anger, and I still have no anger in me. Maybe it will come back in the future. As I've been told, healing is not linear. That's basically the meeting. So to the question, did I meet Samama? Yes, I met Samia twice, but I'm not sure this is the right sub to talk about it. Maybe I'll do a final update before going to my summer vacation for anyone interested to find out what happened and where I'm going from here. Thank you all. You were a great help all along. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more.